Shalom, I'm Rabbi Alan Tufts, and I'm speaking to you here from my study at Temple Bethel in Hollywood, Florida. Our Torah portion for this week is Eikev. It's the third parsha of the book of Deuteronomy. And what I want to share with you today are a couple of passages in this Torah portion that I find especially meaningful. Now, if you happen to have the Torah, a modern commentary, the revised edition published by the Union for Reform Judaism, and you turn to page 1229, we begin chapter 8, verse 2. In the Hebrew it reads, "V'zacharta et kol haderech asher holecha Adonai Elohecha." Remember the long way that the Eternal your God has made you travel in the wilderness these past 40 years, in order to test you by hardships, to learn what was in your hearts, whether you would keep the divine commandments or not. God subjected you to the hardships of hunger and then gave you manna to eat, which neither you nor your ancestors had ever known, in order to teach you that a human being does not live on bread alone, but that one may live on anything that the Eternal decrees. What I love about this passage is how it speaks of the perspective that we have on life when we are approaching, or perhaps after having passed that midpoint in our lives, when we have perspective on what has transpired in that first half of our lives. And often we have overcome trials and tribulations. Not many of us get through the first half of our lives without some sort of financial setback or some crisis in our health, or perhaps a relationship that did not turn out the way that we would have liked it to have. And yet we arrive at a certain point in our lives and we look back and we see that we have grown from those struggles, just as our ancestors had grown from their struggles during the 40 years in the wilderness. And the example that was given was that they had experienced hunger, only to have received manna at the end. God gave them this miraculous food that tasted so delicious and nourished them during those years. And what did they learn? What did they learn from this? They learned that a person is sustained not only through bread, not only through the material sustenance of life, but a person is also sustained by his or her faith in God. And sometimes it's only in looking backward that we see that God has been with us every step of the way. Now, the second passage I want to share with you is found in chapter 10, verse 12. And it says in the Hebrew, Ve'ata Adonai ma Adonai Elohecha sho'el me'imach ki im l're'ah et Adonai Elohecha lalechet b'chol derechav ul'ahava oto v'la'avod et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha. Now, O Israel, what does the Eternal your God demand of you? Only this, to revere the Eternal your God, to walk only in divine paths, to love and serve the Eternal your God with all your heart and soul, keeping the Eternal's commandments and laws, which I enjoin upon you today for your good. Mark the heavens to their outermost reaches belong to the Eternal your God, and the earth and all that is on it. So what do we learn after we have come to the conclusion that God is with us at all times, and that we need to have faith in God? Once we've come to that conclusion, what's demanded of us? Simply to love God, to live as righteously as we can, to do as many mitzvot as wholeheartedly as we can, and to recognize that the heavens above and the earth below are all the creation of God, and that to a large extent we are in charge of our own destiny, but also to a large extent, and maybe to a larger extent, our lives lie in the hands of God. And to live a worthwhile life, we all need a sense of emunah, of faith in God. Shabbat Shalom.